Calling to order the Transportation Committee meeting on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. At this time, I will do roll call. To my right, Alderman Savage,
Present.
Karma O'Neill, present, and Alderwoman Rhonda Pindell Charles is not present. I have a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I have a motion to approve minutes from 7/9/25.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Right into general discussion. Our first item on the agenda is the Transportation Board update with Tara Ashmore. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Hi, good afternoon. Two items. One would be to talk about membership on the board, and the second item would be to talk about Vision Zero and pedestrian safety in Annapolis.
All right. Is your mic on?
It's green.
Okay.
Can you pull it a little closer?
You bet.
Thank you.
Is that better, you guys?
Yeah.
So on the transportation board, we do have some core members, and then we have some other members that seem to sort of wave in and out. I don't mind having a small board. What I do have concerns about is really a board that represents all of the community. So we would just ask you, and if you could share it with your council members, that we would seek input to have a diversified group across all the different wards. And if they have any ideas, if you could let me know, or Kurt, we'd be happy to track those down. Kurt is sort of becoming a little in-house membership committee on his own, which is sort of helpful to have. But, we do seek out people. But again, I would like to really see representation across all the wards. Right now, we really are getting fairly concentrated in Ward 1. And that's somewhat exacerbated by the fact that we have representation from St. John and representation from the Academy, in addition to, I think, at least 3 members that are all Ward 1. So it's a significant, I would say that's 5 out of 8. So seek your support and help on that.
And is that makeup because there's been vacancies? I know that there's a vacancy from Ward 4, I believe, Ward 6?
Yes, as well as just a higher number of recommendations that turn out to be people in Ward 1.
Okay.
I can send you some more details on that if it helps, and where the vacancies are, which wards that we would actually seek new members from.
Okay, that would be fantastic if you
Sure.
could let us know where.
Sure,
We
can
could
send
also
that to
look it up.
You bet. And in particular, the secretary, who's sort of MIA at this point in time, so we're a little behind on our meeting minutes and that sort of thing. So it would be helpful to have some assistance there.
Okay.
So if you give us names, we will track them down. And then the second is Vision Zero and pedestrian safety. I was digging into some numbers on state statistics on fatalities and accidents involving pedestrians, and I think it's something that would be worthwhile for Annapolis to look at, maybe a little deeper. I know I can get stats from Maryland. More specifically, I'm wondering if there's a way to find, and we can ferret this out a little more, a way to find sort of a heat map in Annapolis. On the board, the place that comes up the most is really Compromise Street, and the lack of adequate lighting on Compromise, as well as a lack of a good pedestrian crosswalk at the end of Duke of Gloucester. You've probably heard that theme before. But I think if we looked at a heat map on where accidents actually occur in Annapolis, we'd get a better perspective on areas outside the ones that we tend to travel, right? We would get a more holistic approach, and we could take a sort of all-encompassing look at where we really need to think about pedestrian safety. And it may tie in if you guys ever approve or seek to have additional traffic cameras. We might then also be able to use that information on where one might place traffic cameras if one wanted to increase safety.
Right.
That's about it, guys.
All right. Thank you. Questions? Alderman Savage?
Yeah, just as far as Compromise Street, I do agree. We also have a school right on that street. We are going to be adding a bike lane. We met with Public Works, so that is going to get painted on that newly paved section. And future phases, though, it's going to take a little more time to connect that with the circle, and also do a short, narrower one across the east, the bridge there, down, hopefully all the way down 6th Street.
Great. There are a lot of bicyclists on the board. If you see Keep, let me know. But I'll look that up.
Do you ever invite or have Public Works, or I guess you have the Department of Transportation show up
Yeah,
occasionally? Have you
Marcus
ever
and
had-
Kwaku are there frequently, if not monthly. But
Who?
Marcus
Mar-
and Kwaku.
Yeah. And what about Public Works?
I don't recall Public Works recently. There are different people that are sort of interested in transportation that sometimes come and talk about their issues, but we haven't had Public Works. We could entertain that. Thank you for that recommendation. We
Yeah, I
should
would-
certainly do that.
I would suggest the new traffic engineer, Jeff
When
Wentz.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, we're I think I could say we're all generally, the council is generally trying to get Public Works oriented more on pedestrian safety and actually getting and planning and zoning is already, I think, focused on their end, but hopefully next term we'll get a complete streets standard put in place that has to get applied for all new projects, road projects.
And do they coordinate with the city manager on those things, or is it really DPW, Department of Public Works, that would manage?
I think they pretty much, well, the city man, I think they pretty much handle it themselves, and yeah. But I think my point, I think it'd be beneficial to have them hear from you occasionally.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Because I think we all share the same goals.
Great.
Right.
Thank you.
we'll suggest that.
Yeah.
Next,
Yeah.
you have a meeting next Monday.
We do meet Monday night. That might be a little soon.
Yeah.
We'll find out. Sure. Thank you
Okay.
so much for coming.
Thank you.
You can leave it on. Next up on our agenda is ID 1725 Transportation Department update. Marcus Moore.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Transportation Committee. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you some of the updates at transportation-related matters. I'll give you a little update on our EV charging infrastructure in our city garages, the Bird Bike and Scooter Program, update on City Council Resolution R 2125, a little bit of community outreach, and then the presentations from our two parking contractors, SP Metropolis and Premium Parking. As far as EV chargers, we're looking at Hillman Garage first. Currently, there's one out of the 4 level 3 chargers, which is the fastest charger that's non-operational. Repairs are underway, and we hope to get those all completed in the next couple of weeks, clearly before the end of September. Historically, there's been a little bit longer of a lead time with that ABB. That's chargers, the heaviest used because it's a fast charger. It's been ranging, 3 to 6 weeks due to the high demand and all. This level 4 charger, there's 8 ports for them. The downtime for this year, one unit's been down for about 3 months between January and March. Another unit's been down for 2 months between May and June. And the unit number 3 has been down since August 18th. So cumulative downtime has been 185 days, but cumulative uptime has been 836 days with an operational uptime of about 81%. That's for the level 3. The level 2 chargers, the 3 units, they're all dual head connectors, and uptime is very close to, if not at 100%. Right now, today, it is at 100%. So the other garages, Gotts Court Garage, there's 4 dual head chargers. That includes 1 fast charger. All are currently operational. Knighton Garage, there's 2. And these are likely the oldest ones we have in the city, probably close to 10 years from grant monies back in 2015 or 2014. They're all functional but aging equipment, of course. Park Place Garage, there's 5 chargers, including 1 that's at least a fast charger, and there's just 1 right now that's out of service in Park Place. Transit ridership for the summer, July, August, was slightly lower as compared to last year, the same period. Not sure exactly why, but our microtransit mobility that went into a pilot on August 15th of last year is actually exceeding by double digits from last year. But we're planning to do some more community outreach to make sure folks really, still know that it's out there. We did a lot of that as we reached out back last year with visitor center, community centers, senior centers, and we got to redo that because it's not a one and done. So we're looking at hosting some other events. In fact, we have an event coming up on, I think it's the 23rd with the visitors center, because it's in our opinion that if we keep their staff updated, they're good ambassadors for all of us with parking, transportation, city dock updates, and the like. And of course, we'd like to do another familiarization tour with you guys sometime next month. And of course, the new council that'll be a part of our whole group here. One unfortunate thing when we look at Bird Bike and Scooter, that came into play back in the spring of 2022 as Hillman was being rebuilt. So our agreement with them in spring of 2022 or thereabouts, this was a pilot for 1 year with 3 one-year options to extend service until the spring of 2026. But unfortunately, Bird has advised us that they're not in a position to provide the service that they have been doing for us over the last 3 years. For the foreseeable future, it's just outside of their bandwidth. So that being said, we'll begin the process with procurement to put the RFP out for a new vendor this spring, which we would have had to have done anyway because that sunsetted in the April-May timeframe. Just unfortunate because we have a few big events coming in October with the Pride Parade, with the boat show, and just normal weather all the way to sometimes close to Thanksgiving. So there was an opportunity to go a little bit further along with that. What I'd like to get into now is the council resolution R2125. And as you're aware of it, that was a companion with the 12.24.130, which is expired meter.
Wait,
And
which one are you talking
this
about?
is 12.24.130. That's expired meter. It's been on the books as a city code, and it's used for just that. Prior to the fall of 2023, all of our garages were gated. So there was no way of not paying unless the gate was up, broken, or you somehow got out. But this was the closest code that addressed what we had as far as violations in our city garages. And that's what was being used. So as you know, as voters on that with the city council, this resolution distinguishes between the on-street and off-street parking. So the on-street violations, which is expired meter, still remain unchanged at $50 a citation. There's no, there's no grace period. It depends on, it's really one of those that's behavioral. So as a parking enforcement officer comes by, if it just clicked over 1 minute, maybe they will go check another few cars and come back, but there's no grace period. So that expired meter is there. When we talk about off-street, we're specifically talking about our garages. So those violations, as per this R2125, reduces that $50 to $25 plus a processing fee of $5.25 and the cost of the parking session. So as mentioned, we're working on an official start date with both of our parking contractors. You know, you don't want a tale of two cities. This one started, the other one hasn't. It causes a lot of confusion. We're not saying it's going to take, months and months, but it will take weeks.
Start date for
this resolution for both parking contractors to be able to get that plugged in and operational. It is our hope in early October, maybe as early as October 1, or maybe the first Monday in October, which I think is the 6th, but it could be sooner. But as Mae mentioned, working with both of them to make sure it's unified across the board, that we have it in all 4 garages simultaneously. But that's what I have for the updates for the summer of what we're doing. We're trying new things to get out to the field to introduce or reintroduce, I should say, the services that we offer, our paratransit, microtransit, and the like. So we look forward to just continuing our conversations with you guys, and also just getting the word out of what it is that we're actually offering. So what I like to do is, bring our contractors up, starting first with SP Metropolis. Per your request, Chairman and committee, you've given us the agenda of what you'd like to have presented for this time around. So Mr. John Kemp was regional manager of Metropolis, and Jason Kinney, who's senior manager, they'll be presenting on the topics he gave, followed by a presentation of Mr. Jason Parola, market president with Premium Parking.
Can I ask
Oh,
a
wait,
really quick
yeah.
question
Sure.
before we get those? And I think
I have
Alderman
questions,
Savage
too.
has a question. So a few weeks ago, an issue came up that popped up that I don't think is a single issue with the meters, and the fact that now I believe that all of the meters in the city are all digital now. So it's a code and not a put quarters in or put your credit card in a meter, correct? We don't have
I
any
believe
of
we have
those.
some meters that are still coin operated, or are they all huh? Downtown? Coin or quarter? Yeah, there's some that are still accepting
There's some-
currency. Yeah.
But more often than not, the meters on the street are I'm going to address the meters that are code, like either using Park Mobile or QR code.
Um,
So a person parked on Calvert Street. They paid their meter with their phone, standing at their car. Went into a meeting. The meeting lasted over the 2 hours, and at the 1 hour 45-minute mark, they pulled up their phone and paid for parking because it's two different codes. One code was 1234, one code was 2124. Not knowing, not paying attention to the fact that you're only allowed to park in your spot for 2 hours, because they were able to pull up in their location, their phone tapped their phone's location, not their car's location. So they were able to pay that. Do we know if that's happened to more than one person, or is this?
you know,
Where the
because where they work.
the vehicle, they paid at the vehicle, which is a different location than where they were currently. That does happen sometimes. My name's Brendan Cleverly, account manager for Premium Parking. That does happen sometimes. I would say it is definitely a rarity, because most of the time it would take the session actually expiring for them to be unable to extend the session from their phone at a completely different location. So that means that the session is already well expired and they're not able to extend the original session. It happens sometimes, but it is a rarity.
So this
I
was a
could say.
second session. When you
Yeah, that
when
would
we
that would mean it would be a completely separate session than the original session, completely different confirmation number, the whole works. So yeah.
but the public doesn't realize that now they're getting a ticket because their car is still at zone 1234, but they've just paid for zone 9394, right?
In most instances, that would be a ticketable offense, yes. But I do also believe that Park Mobile, as well as our system, we do notify the parkers that their session's about to expire. So we do make sure to say, hey, your session's about to expire. Would you like to re-up it? So that we can try to curb that occurrence happening as much as possible. But that would be a ticketable offense
Okay,
if they
but
do
if
pay
it's a
for a
2 hour
completely different
maximum,
location.
They wouldn't necessarily be allowed to re-up.
Right. So if it's a 2 hour, if they paid for 2 hours, it would be a 2 hour maximum. They wouldn't be allowed to re-up it at all. They paid for 1 hour and then tried to re-up it. Then by another hour, then it would work for that location. But if you pay for a completely different location and you paid for 2 hours, it would be a different location.
Right.
Parker
I'm
might
just
not
saying,
know.
in this particular case, city resident, not unintelligent,
Right.
when they saw that they knew that they had until 6 p.m. and it was going to go past 6 p.m., they pulled up their phone and started a new parking event, not realizing that the code was different.
Right. In those instances, we would be, if it wasn't in those instances, we would be able to see that if they did appeal the citation, if they received a citation first off, we would still be able, if they appealed it, we'd still be able to see, oh, they did make a different payment for a completely different location. So it isn't as if we wouldn't be able to completely see and be transparent with it. But if it is a maximum of 2 hours, they paid for 2 hours in a completely different location. The ticket stands because they paid for a different location, but in most instances, if they did appeal it with the agreement that we have with the Department of Transportation, we would most likely void that citation.
Jason Prola, Market President for Premium. I just wanted to, he touched on that. So about 12 months ago, I would estimate, we did establish I would call it the good intent approval with Marcus and Vicky's office to make sure that when we can see in any place, regardless of the reason, good intent from someone, they try to use the system, abide by whatever the regulations are, but something went wrong, we have a blanket approval to void those when we see it, and we do that. So this would fall into one of those buckets, I think, as well. So if they extended it, let's say they're at Harry Brown's, but they parked on Main Street, they get the notice, but they don't see it in time, they're eating, then they realize it, they make a payment, but it's on the QR or number out front. At that point, if they appeal it, we see that we're able to for them.
Okay. So it's a glitch and we're aware of it and we're just,
It's not a glitch, it's how it's intended. So 10 years ago, chalk was put on tires. And if you moved the chalk 2 feet, all of a sudden you had moved and it wasn't the same parking session. So at that point, we divided the city up into some subsections or zones, if you will, so that we were able to make sure that the employees downtown weren't parking on City Dock all day, and then our residents and our guests that come visit couldn't window shop and eat, etc. So it's meant to, in a very soft way, encourage them to go to the garage or to the other part of town if they're going somewhere else. And this does happen. It's very rare. It does happen, and that's what we use that letter for.
thank you. Alderman.
Yeah, just for Director Moore. So for the EV chargers, do you know why it took so long to get that one repaired that was down in Hillman for 3 months?
You want to, that's the one in him.
I can answer that one, actually. So the reason for it being down for so long was mostly due to parts being back ordered for so long. Most of the parts that come from ABB, which are the supplier and the actual repair operators for the chargers, most of them actually come from overseas, and they do take time to come from overseas. And due to the actual reason why it was broken, which was actually a brand new CPU that had been put in, fried. Within only a year of it being put in, it fried completely. So they had to import brand new CPU for this machine, and it took 3 months. It actually took 2 months for it to come in, and then another month for them to schedule it with someone to repair it. That's already beside us approving the quote, everything like that, and payment occurring. It took an additional month for them to schedule it with their repair people.
That's ABB.
So the company that runs, or like, how would you say, they operate the machines, like they watch them, watch the heartbeat, everything like that. That's a company called InCharge. It's like a parent company in a way. They watch the machines, see if they're broken, everything like that. And how it works is when something's broken, they're supposed to go and contact ABB, who is the company who repairs them. ABB is the only company that knows how to repair those chargers. As of late, InCharge hasn't been reporting as they should be. So it has occurred sometimes where we find that they're down, and then we have to do, to the best of our ability, inform them of what is broken in the machine. Obviously, I'm not an electrician. I will never claim to be one, but that is also what kind of draws the process out, is we're taking pictures of the machines and everything to show as much as possible what's broken on it. But then they have to go through their processes, do basically a game of telephone between us, in charge, ABB, back and forth before someone can come out and actually repair the machine. And that's why it took 3 months for that one machine.
So is what's being done to improve that process?
Really, there isn't much that can be improved for that process other than being even more difficult with them than necessarily someone may think they would need to be. That the reason why this machine that's been down for a month is actually being repaired in a month is because I've been personally following up with them twice a day. Normally, you would think that you need to follow up with somebody maybe once a day or maybe once every 2 days just to try not to annoy them as much as possible, you know? But with these people, it is definitely a game of you have to hold their hand to make sure that they're doing their job. And that's what we've been doing. I've been calling them every single day, beginning of when I get into work and before I even leave to go home. I call them twice, and
Yeah.
that's why it's being fixed at a faster rate. We're also going to be putting stickers on the EV chargers so that we can have them reported easier. So if, say, a resident does go or a parker does go and notice that they are broken before we do, they can just say, oh, it's charger 4, and we already know the serial number for charger 4, and we can just, like that, contact In Charge instead of going down and being like, this one's broken, and so on and so forth.
Mhm. Thank you. And
You did great. Yeah.
so are they a sub of Premium?
No.
No.
These were purchased by Whiting Turner during the construction of the garage. It's been a challenge, and I would say in the current environment with a lot of the funding that's disappeared, we're seeing a bit of a reaction from these companies, and service levels have dropped as well, and parts are less available. With this ABB charger, as he mentioned, the internals of it tend to be harder to get than a plug or a cord adapter, if you will. So these larger issues take a good bit longer.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why the companies don't have. They should have an inventory of repair parts as opposed to like having to order them from China every time.
I will tell you this: I will not purchase ABB chargers in the future for anything.
Is there a way to get some other, like, who owns the chargers?
So
Like, is there a way to
typically,
get some other company to maintain them, and
yeah. So typically, they license the service contracts out to somebody. In our case, it's In Charge, and that's who we have to go through.
who did that licensing?
ABB. So the ABB maintenance is done through In Charge, and that's your option to reach out to. Unfortunately,
ABB. Who's ABB in the whole relation?
they manufacture the charger. They're the company that is branded on the charger. If you
Right,
will.
but who has the contract with ABB?
I don't know. They were just purchased and put in the garage. So when we came in, that's
I know, but I'm saying, like, if the are the chargers still owned by ABB, or they if they're owned by Premium or one of the other partners in the garage, then
leans illegal, but I believe it would be they're owned by the city. If that's fair to say. Yeah, we could look into it.
I mean, because 3 months. I mean, I have 2 EVs. 3 months repair time is not acceptable. I mean, typically, when I have a charger that's down, like, is there a number people can call? Because typically, when you go to a charge that's not working, there's a number, you can call it right there. They'll usually try rebooting it. If that doesn't work, it's broken, and when you pull up, it'll notify you. But because we've had other issues with in the county where you have the chargers take months as well, and it's very inconvenient if you really need to charge. So just looking at ways we can.
No, yeah, I think the stickers, I'm glad. Both times I stepped up, Pete brought up what I was coming up to talk about. But the stickers are going to be a big help to make sure that we get it before somebody else tells us about it.
Yeah.
Meaning they go to City Hall or come to our office to let us know. Unfortunately, that's the extent of what we have for those. And I agree, it's a long time and not ideal at all. They're expensive. You can't have 50 of them in a facility. It wouldn't make sense to do that. So it's important to have what you do have access to online and working.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge since May of last year. It's gotten a bit more challenging in recent months, but working through it.
I guess I would just ask Director Moore, if you have somebody on staff, keep an eye on the performance of that company ABB. Make sure repair times. It sounds like premiums. You're doing, the best you can to get them to make the repairs. But again, if staff notices the repair times keep taking way too long, then maybe we need to step in and
Yeah,
do
we can do a
something.
little bit more research. Why Whiting Turner purchased them? Maybe that was the best deal at the time. But researching more about the company Insight and ABB, see what can be done. What kind of problems maybe other locations nearby us, if they're using the same product, to see what's going on. But we will follow up.
Thank you. And any timeline on the Park Place charger? You said that one was down.
We can check on that one. Park Place Charger, that one that's down.
Yes. It has the.
How much time?
Oh, you-
It's on its third modem since they switched from Shell to Switch.
Yeah.
Switch is the new company, and they've replaced the modem twice, so I don't know.
So it's BGE.
BG&E.
BGE is a problem with they don't maintain their chargers well.
They actually have a guy that comes out once every 2 weeks and tests everything that's theirs.
But they haven't given you a timeline.
Waiting on parts. That's all I've gotten so far.
Okay.
across the
All right.
board.
The modem is on order.
Yeah. All right. So as far as the Bird scooters, I'm kind of glad. I mean, I'm kind of glad that because I was, communicating with Mr. Rao. I'm glad that kind of glad we're able to get a new company to do that because I don't think Bird's been doing a good job lately. But I guess keep us posted on the procurement for a new company or any kind of bidding. Are you going to go through full bid process?
Yeah, we
Or
will, because
sole
of what
source?
we had, Alderman, was a pilot program that sunset. We just couldn't restart it again. We'd have to go through the whole process. So instead of waiting until the spring, when it was getting closer within 90 days, we'll just start that now so we'll be ready in the spring. But we'll see what we can get because this city does need, and it was well used.
Yeah.
But towards the end of it, it wasn't well managed.
Yeah. Can you, or will you be making sure that there's a bike component to that in addition to just scooters?
That was the big part at the beginning, as you saw with the 150. I don't know what the mix was, but maybe 1/3 of that was bikes, and the other 2/3 were scooters. We do want the bike. The scooters were much more used quite a bit more than the bikes, but we do want the mix.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And just as far as I'm asking about the chargers because we have received complaint from his member on the transportation board.
Yes.
About those, so I want
Yeah.
to dig into a little bit.
And one of the things in Mr. Regal's report there, if you're coming downtown every few days, every few weeks or whatever, that one was down when I last came. It was down again. It looks like a continuation. As Mr. Cleverly
Right.
made mention, it was fixed and was fixed for like 7 to 10 days. Very short period of time, so it looks like it was a continuous outage. And the numbers I gave there as far as uptime, I believe is going all the way back to when the Hillman was open or when they were done in summer of 2023.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We're ready.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us. John Kemp, Metropolis. We'll run through some of the data that's that we have in the past, but also with some additional information here. All right. So the first one we have is a length of stay by location. This hasn't changed much, which I would expect. We do need to send an updated version to the board here with corrected comments. Some of these leaked over from the previous one, but It's a typical use pattern. I will say that grace periods are grace period sessions, and those are sessions from folks who would come in and then leave relatively quickly within 15 minutes. Those remain higher than I would have guessed at any given point. Not quite sure what the driver is there. And then there are Park Place, which is the third lightest colored bar on this particular graph, represents some long stay durations, which makes sense. There's a hotel component to that, driving a lot of the parking. On the next several slides, we've got peak occupancy. So this is good. Again, this is what I would expect. It's a busy chart, so I'd encourage you to take a look. We can send an electronic version. As I mentioned, we're going to send an updated version, or on the paper you have in front of you. But peak occupancy by day in a given month, so June, July, and then August is on a subsequent page for each of the 3 garages. Nothing terribly unexpected here, I will say. This is extremely useful data to have at our fingertips. As we know, as a group, as a parking group, we talk about events at the top of each biweekly meeting's agenda. And it's important, I think, maybe to consider not just those events, but also just the goings on beyond specific city-sanctioned events, because when you see areas that you might not expect, a large peak occupancy on a Friday evening in June, or it's in one of the months at GOTS, for example. A Friday evening in July, that was at Park Place. But it's important to be digesting this stuff regularly so that your staffing is meeting the demand, obviously. So this is good. The areas to the right of each of these tables represent when your ingress, and egress periods are. Again, important, right? Where should staff be in a particular location at a particular time? You want to be where the action is, right? That way you can help the most people. So we've got June, July, and August for each of the garages. I will say that we need to send an updated version for Knighton. Knighton's data is actually represented by Park Place's data, so we'll send you an updated version correcting for Knighton. And keep going through. Let's see. We can also share this more regularly on our biweekly call to sort of call anything out that becomes apparent. But as you look at it and have questions, by all means, think about those. We're happy to talk through them. Let's keep going through occupancy.
Wait, save my question. On the first slide,
Yep.
And stop me if you're going to get into this a little bit, but do you have a percentage of those who are staying for 1 to 2 hours that use the 2-hour free
I can add that.
pass?
Yeah, that's yep. We'll add that to that slide. So percentage of, we want to mark on there how many residents use their residential validation from here, right?
Yeah, numbers or percentage would be fine.
Okay, sure.
I mean, numbers would be good because I think I mentioned this last time. I would like to just get an idea of monetarily how much.
Yeah, I think we
revenue is-
included that in the last one. We deprecated that slide in here for this particular time, but we'll make sure it's just by default in all of these updates. Yep.
Be great.
Yep. Got that note? All right. And as we get through occupancy, here's a table of infractions for non-payment. So those would be folks who actually have gotten a ticket in each of those months by location for leaving without paying. And as Director Moore mentioned, this process is going to change a bit. for the better with the passage of the ordinance affecting 1224-130 or 1224-030. The passage of that ordinance is going to help automate that. This is a very manual process at current. It's going to go ahead and automate that process. So I don't know that that's necessarily going to mean there's more infractions. I wouldn't say that, but the team will be better freed up to help folks answer questions and fulfill requests compared to the very manual process of writing an infraction today in the
Sorry,
garage.
what is it you're going to automate?
The actual infraction issuance process. So the passage of 1224 of the ordinance, and I don't what is it? Or I don't know if it's R2125 affecting ordinance 1224-30 is going to, the passage of that's going to help us automate the process. And at the same time, as we've discussed over the course of, our parking groups bi-weekly meetings, right, that includes the Alderwoman as well as members of City Hall and Department of Transportation, it's going to become arguably more equitable for the parker, and certainly more efficient in terms of the issuance.
This chart shows that there's quite a bit of a drop from like June or from July to June.
Yep.
I think July is mostly
there's a significantly fewer number of parkers in general, but there's probably other factors that go into that drop. I'm not 100% sure yet why we'd have such a very large drop at Knighton, but obviously we're going to need to figure out what that is if it's not just volume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, why did that increase so much from 39 to 203? Is that a data error?
I don't know. Those are the infractions that went out. I don't think it's a data error in this particular
It's
case.
only that garage.
Yeah,
That doesn't really make sense.
I agree. So we'll have to take that note back and
And then to have it go from 203 to 18.
right.
No.
Thank you.
And then on the next one, we've got some. This is the amount of unpaid time. So the time represented, that is, I'll say air quotes or quote unpaid in the garages by hour or by month. Excuse me. This is raw data, and we need to refine the process a little bit of what we call unpaid, because there are mitigating circumstances. For example, at Park Place, very large numbers here. But you've got a hotel in place, and the mechanism for the valet company or the hotel to process their guests is one in which the agreement with the city or us as the agent for the city for the hotel parking there, while their guests might not register, there's opportunities there for their guests for them not to do it correctly, not process them correctly, and thus appear as though they're unpaid. I'll kind of leave that at that. But there's some other mitigating circumstances, I think, in here that we need to look at in terms of the data refinement to arrive at the final sort of, what I would consider unpaid is the hours associated with the citations issued, whereas this is more than that. So there can be reasons for you to have left and not paid, but after looking at it, we wouldn't issue a citation in a particular case. Perhaps you put the wrong letter in to your license plate, right? Your license plate ABC 123, but you wrote in, let's say the camera picked it up as A8, thinking the B was an 8, C123, and you paid under ABC 123. That would manifest itself, or that would make itself apparent as we were to go ahead and issue a citation, and we would say, we're not going to issue that citation because that person put in the correct plate. or vice versa. You know, there's a someone touched the wrong letter on their phone when they went ahead and paid. So we marry those two events up. That's a paid that goes from an unpaid transaction to a paid one and doesn't receive a citation. But some of the hours in here are represented by those circumstances. So we have to come up with a more efficient way to process this data, so that it only represents the true number of unpaid or citable sessions.
Yeah.
Or they've paid after they left. So thank you, Jason, for reminding me. Another aspect that we have a partial bit of this aspect in place today, but it will become even more available thanks to the passage of that ordinance referenced earlier, for folks who might not, their battery may have run out on their phone, they didn't have their phone, whatever the reason is. They'll be able to, they have the ability to, but they'll be more proactively prompted to say, hey, you still have 24 hours to pay what you owe for that parking session that you just left at Knighton Garage. And if they go ahead and do that, that's a paid parking session. So it's not our intent to cite folks who show the good intent, pay what they've owed for parking before 24 hours is up, and then they move over to this citable queue, if you will. I think that's the last. One more. Repeat offenders. Yep, this is good data here. Wish there weren't so many, but it's it's interesting to see. I guess it doesn't shock me too much when you look at broader sort of trends in this sort of thing, but we'll continue to track this. And I will say we do, obviously in addition to citing folks, it's not that we would cite anyone more aggressively who's a repeat offender that's not. I mean, a citation's a citation, but to the degree we have any contact information or any ability to find this plate, this does help. We do have reports specifically for bandits. These are called in our system bandits. And it helps direct staff to say, there's that vehicle that, hasn't paid. Let me go put a notice on their car, that gives them the instructions that they're on all the signs, but here's another flyer with instructions to say, step 1, do this, step 2, do that, step 3, do that, hopefully to help mitigate that. I mean,
so how do you handle, or as on staff's end, do you get a notice when somebody comes in who owes money to you, hasn't paid, like who is a repeat offender? Does staff get a notice when the license plate is red going in?
It doesn't when it's going in, but we run bandit reports we have an automated bandit report run, and so we can quickly look at that. It's part of our duty every day to say who's on the list, and then we can refer to the active sessions in there and say, oh, it looks like we have 3 bandits, folks who would be part of these numbers here. They're in the garage, and then we communicate to the staff, hey, these 3 vehicles are in the garage. They're repeat offenders. Please make sure we get notices on their vehicle to help them pay.
That's just once a day. It sounds like it's not.
We can do it as
really
frequently
real-time.
It's as frequently as we wish to do it, I guess.
Well, so what happens if somebody just keeps going in for 2-3 hours and leaving, and you don't catch them? They still haven't paid. You mail them the citations. What are they?
A couple things.
What do you do if they don't pay?
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, in a municipal environment, the teeth, if you will, that we have as an agent of the city is eventually their registration would get held by the DMV. So anybody who's got unpaid citations, I mean, that's where it would land. That's where it would end with them. Now, I will say with the Metropolis network of locations, if they were to go to, say, a gated location in Washington, D.C. or wherever, and they owed $75 for parking in Park Place, that gate won't go up until their card is processed for the session that they're in at DC and the $75 that's owed for GOTS. Those $75 would then be routed to that's specific to the location or zone number, specific to Gotts, Knighton, Park Place, each zone. And that $75 would for that particular site. So say they owed $10 for that parking that day in DC, but also they had this outstanding 75 owed for Gotts. The 75 would make its way to that bank account for the city.
What's your current trigger for that? When do you actually go
Anybody-
to DMV to?
Oh, DMV is
registration.
that's part of code. It is after 60 days, I believe, off the top of my head, but I can clarify. That might be shorter than that.
60 days.
60 unpaid days of any infraction.
It's not paid after 60 days.
Yeah.
Then it-
There's
okay.
that's also an automated process where boom, we move it over to the DMV file and then it runs automatically.
Okay. So these, okay.
And do you think these non-payments, for instance, night 23 in June, 23 in July, 20 in, are they the same person or are they
Wouldn't surprise me.
different?
Good question. Let's look into that. Yep, I'd be surprised. I'd bet if I were betting, I'd say more than half are probably the same folks. Yep.
Well, how does it work if they've out of state tags?
We do run their information on across the 50 states. Now there are different rules in each state for sure. I will say that I don't know why, but I know there's an effort underway. You may have seen that recently in the news. There's a sad lack of reciprocation on some of this stuff between Virginia, DC, and Maryland. DC has recently tasked their attorney general with finding some of these bandits, if you will, particularly with respect to on-street parking, and directing their office to gather evidence and present cases in court. Many states don't need to resort to that because they reciprocate information sharing. And so if in that example, and this is an effort that we're working at at a corporate level, many states will reciprocate. And what that means is, hey, I'll send you my bandits and you'll send me your bandits, and we'll each if my rules say that Massachusetts will hold not just registrations, but also driver's license renewals, when they have that information. And so when New Hampshire, Connecticut has bandits and they have bandits, Connecticut will say, hey, here's our bandits, and Massachusetts will do the same. And the applicable laws in each state will apply to those lists regardless. But yeah, Director Moore is aware of our effort, I think, we've got municipalities in Virginia. DC is, of course, its own unique entity, but in particular with Virginia and Maryland, we have an effort underway to ask legislatures to consider moving forward with a reciprocal relationship with this data, much like many other states that border each other. And, as he's aware, I think the time will come where we ask for the city's support in that effort, just as we are our partners, and not just Metropolis, but several other companies and jurisdictions representatives to agree that, hey, we all are in agreement with this analysis, sort of a thing. And we're asking our legislatures to look seriously at changing the reciprocation of our data sharing relationship. So I think the time will be coming.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
There's one more. Let's end on a good note. There's one more, not on a slide. There's two more. So these are garage citation adjustments. So I mentioned the fact that folks have 24 hours to pay, even if they leave, right, for reasonable reasons. But also if it's our policy that if folks do get a citation, and they are first-time offenders, so these are your visitors to the city who everyone agrees, we want their experience to be a positive one. Sometimes it's less positive if they've left having had a great day in town for an event or whatever. And then they wind up with a citation. So if folks make right, this is their first time as an offender, they're not on that repeat offender list, but they are able to pay for their session. They pay a reduced fee or not the full citation amount in that first time offender category. So that's what this represents here, leaving hopefully a little better taste in their mouth.
Good idea.
In the process. Yep. And then the last one, which is not on a slide, is one of the things we've talked about over time, is the ability for us to apply the residential validation organically rather than, so we went from a system, if you'll recall, when there was older equipment where folks would have chaser tickets, pieces of paper that they would have to insert, reducing their fees. We're at a better place now where each resident has their own unique QR code that they scan for their sessions, and that's better, and that's been that's welcomed, of course. But we're moving toward a place where that group is a defined, unique group. They're the residents of Annapolis, but this same concept applies in other places for other reasons. I mentioned a while back in New York, there's a VIP list of sorts. Your residents are certainly VIP, so let's think of them in the same terms there. And organically, the discount can apply based on their inclusion in that group, or their plate's inclusion in that group. So we're getting closer. I'm confident we're going to be there before the year is out. So that'll be great. And it's not through any, the fact that you're asking for it helps. So thank you.
Thank you. Great information. I appreciate it.
Jason Parola, representing Premium Parking, is the market president. He's got the similar information to give the same presentation as SP Metropolis did.
Hi, Jason Prola, Market President for Premium Parking. Thanks for having us here this afternoon.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's not.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. It is. This one was plugged in through this. Is there another cable we can? Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay, so open to any recommendations or suggestions on this if we want to see what we have here today adjusted in any way. So we will go over June, July, and August for some data as I understood the request and provide that. So first, I want to start off with occupancy. This is through different segments of the day. We can drill down into specific hours if we'd like to, and then days of the week for June. And then this, if you want any more details on this or more extrapolated data by hour or anything, let us know. I know we want to look at some opportunities for some different programs for the businesses, especially as we hopefully move forward with City Dock soon. And we'll use this for that kind of stuff to make recommendations. And on that note, I would just make a recommendation. Let's connect and talk about these things. I think if I take these to Medco and to Amber, it'll go a long way if I agree and sort of recommend these things as good revenue drivers and options for people. So here's June. July is very interesting. We'll see anywhere from 5 to 10% drops on several of the timeframes. Tied that to 11 days of rain in July. We just saw a lot less tourism, and you'll see the peak especially drop outside of sort of like the Friday, Saturday evenings when we're the busiest regardless of weather. And then August had a fantastic recovery and was certainly the busiest month of the summer that we saw. This was a bit last minute. I'll make it look nicer on our next presentation. This is just promo code usage at the Hillman Garage for each month, broken out by month. We have 3 promo codes that actively get used. I believe there are a couple more that exist, like the bed and breakfast. We just don't have participants with them that are utilizing the programs. But residents park, shop, and dines, and then the Mason's Lodge utilizes the garage as well. And so this is the used, not issued, but used promo codes for the garage for each of those months.
Oh, you don't have that in the presentation?
No, I'm sorry. This was a last minute ad, which why I'll also make it look a bit nicer and easier to read too in the next session that we have.
So these are, okay, the number of people who use those promo codes.
Yes, these are used in the platform.
Similar question, do you have, could you add for the future the percentage?
Yes. So
I mean, I can see that you have the total June numbers. For example, 25,000 sessions. So 759 out of that 25,000, you're saying in June anyway, used promo code.
Yes, and so that was going to be my question. I based all of the percents we'll see on the next slide off of the total users each month, transient users, so exclusive of the whitelist employees of the city and others that go on to that, as well as the monthly parkers. So this is just transient. So do you want to see it as a percent of residents that have had them issued and are using them, or do you want to see of all users, all transactions, if you will?
I think all transactions.
Or we could do both. That might.
I think all transactions for the month would be
Okay.
good. So on that chart you have for use total sessions, add a row for promo code usage. I think would be-
Absolutely. I will even update this and send it back out to you guys with this slide. I'll make it look a bit nicer and add that to this.
But it's so. And looking at the numbers, August had the highest sessions, but there's no real noticeable increase in promo codes. So I guess that what that tells me is that the actual city residents who are using that code doesn't really fluctuate too much with the season, at least not in June, July, August. It's tourists who presumably, or other visitors who boost the August numbers so much.
Yes, and if you look at this slide and compare June or August to July, you'll see that those weekdays have less variance in that slower July month than you'll see in the rest.
I also wonder if you go back a second,
Yeah.
for my colleague in the city manager's office to point out, and for the department, as we look to adjust our parking requirements in the future, especially downtown, and potentially remove on-street parking for bike lanes, I want to point out that there's plenty of capacity. The only time it's typically, on average, you're right, 100% filled would be that Saturday, one slot in the middle of the day. So I'm just pointing that out because that gives us flexibility, I think, to right now we may have an excess of on-street parking.
Well,
Yeah. So, yeah. Just making an
Yeah, and
observation.
we've been having some conversations about other kinds of programs that Marcus referenced earlier, and about extending the program that we already have at the other 3 garages for employees of other businesses, extending that to Hillman for the same reason, that there is capacity and, you know, graduated in. So I take your point that part of what this says is, you know, let's be aware that if we're taking away parking in some other places, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're losing parking revenue necessarily. The goal is to shift it in places where there's capacity.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and so I bring that up for two reasons. One is like Duke, and this is a side track, so pardon me, but Duke, we're talking about Duke of Gloucester and potentially making that have the capability of two-way traffic, right? What I've been pushing is to at the same time remove all the on-street parking on that road so we can have two-way traffic with a bike lane, separate bike lane. Because if you're there, if you drive that late at night after our meetings, nobody's parked on that street which tells me it's mostly for tourists. And this tells me we have room for the tourists in the garage. So we don't need the on-street parking in Duke of Gloucester. It's just when we get to that point, I think we need to keep this in mind and use it to show the public that, look, we're removing the parking on Duke of Gloucester or wherever, but we have plenty of space in the parking garage, right? So we're not contributing to the park. It's the parking shortage is a perception. We have plenty of capacity.
There's plenty of
Yeah.
capacity.
And then the other thing is, are city employees still prohibited from parking in this garage during the day?
No, city employees have been parking at Hillman all since it opened. We in fact, one of the things that has been on Marcus's plate for a little while is making sure that we're not over subscribing what is in the agreement for that number. So there are several of us like me who don't park at Hillman. We park in other places, but we have 130-ish who park there.
The agreement had 160 set aside. There was a point in time where we had provided, to just better serve the business needs of City Hall, issued 5 validators where you could validate plates for shorter term, not here all the time parkers who don't need a monthly pass. And so I believe up until June sometime, we had it set at 120 monthlies, and then the other, I think 40 were set aside for those validations. We went through a project where we looked at how often those validations were used, and it was nowhere near that delta. So we increased it pretty substantially so that City Hall could have more monthly passes than it, but still were able to keep with approval the validation usage so that that dynamic solution was sort of there.
Okay.
Yeah. And on that note, one thing I will be doing is talking with Amber and Medco, I think based off of this, and it's been on my mind for a while, is to also look if we can increase the amount of monthlies that we can make available to the businesses. The 24/7 monthlies have a cap, and I'm going to lobby to have that increased. It makes sense revenue-wise, and it's just it's more solutions for the business community. That the wait list is over 300 business accounts. Who knows how many cars they are going to request as well, and it takes about 3 years for them to cycle through and get an access. A little bit ad hoc too. Fiscal year 2024, we did, I think it was 669,000 paid transactions in the parking system, on street, the residential wards, and then the garage, all included. And then FY25, it was up to 700,000. So a really nice increase there.
So you say that again, please?
Yeah, so we went from, and these are off the top of my head, I believe it was 669,000 transactions in FY24, which the garage and concession completed on June 13th. So call it July 1st through,
Fiscal year.
it was 669 and it was 700 last year.
In the fiscal year?
Yeah. Which beats all the prior 10 years historicals and the consultants' revenue models for the project.
700K? How much? 700?
700,000 paid transactions.
So
if
from
you will.
690,000 up to 700,000.
Yeah, so
You
it's
said
being-
that it, huh? 669.
669, yes.
And you said that exceeded the
The 10-year historicals and the revenue models built into the concession agreement by the consultant, Walker. So it's working. It's being used at a higher rate than ever. We had I believe, 2.7% increase in FY24, or I'm sorry, 25 on the on-street rates. It was not put into place because revenue is so far beyond any projections that were put into place. That escalator didn't need to be used. But the average ticket was also up more than 10% over those 2 years as well. So it's being utilized and it's working well.
Good. And
An improvement. I think the big story there is improvement, right? Over time, we've gotten better at it. And
all right.
it shows improvement, right? More
Yeah.
being used shows we've made some progress in making it easy to use.
Can you send us the financial numbers? I don't know if you want to do that publicly, but could you send to the committee?
I would ask you to request that through the director. He has to make a formal request just contractually.
Yes.
But we provide it in the monthly report, so I know that would be something that can be provided to you.
Okay. I guess to Director Moore, then could you send the monthly reports to the committee?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
And if that 669,000 transactions, those are just paid parking in the garage? And does that include the $50 fine for unpaid?
It does not include the fine. It's paid transactions, or if a promo code or validation is used in the platform.
Okay.
So it's exclusive of the monthly parkers, the residents that come and go throughout the day and park and leave.
I asked if the fine,
Yeah.
but it does not. It's the paid transaction permit. I'm calling them permits.
Yeah. The other, I think, neat fact, again, ad hoc, the 12-month RPP. I was in shock when I looked at the June and July numbers because they were half of last year. And so the next step was to run outside of June and July what happened. And it was 7 RPPs different than the prior year, which my first takeaway was that's half the city's residents in the areas we service. And if you think about it, it's certainly attractive to a young crowd that signs leases and moves in and out. And then you have St. John's and the Naval Academy. But the such a high percentage of residents, to see that turnover was shocking, but it worked and it went well this year. So I think that was a great change.
Are you
No.
through anything else?
One more. And so here is the Hillman Garage. Here's the bulk of the meat and potatoes that you asked for and the data request. So here I have June, July, and August, a total, and then a percent of the annual or of the 3-month total for each of the items requested that we haven't seen so far. So we have total sessions by month. You'll see the July sessions, while occupancy was down, it was up over June. August was a very big month. And then for the citations with no payment, you'll see those below that. And then for the 3-month total, that's 2.46% of non-monthly guests at the garage. Vehicles with repeated unpaid during this 3 months, and that is 0.45%. Which is great. That means that when we do connect on a negative experience, they're learning how to use the system, and we're cutting that down by almost 1/6. And then citation is reversed. A PhD put this together. I think that there's one problem here. These are most likely only from our customer service department and not from my local team. There aren't a ton that aren't related to the mayor's office or that good intent letter that we've established. So it's not a huge number, but I do believe those are missing because they live in a separate system. As I look at it, I realize that probably is missing. I don't know for sure, but I don't think there was 1 in July, or 0 in July and 1 in August. So I don't expect big jumps there, but there are some missing from those. The average length of stay is about 3.4 hours in the garage. Then our peak is very consistent. It's 4 to 7. This is adjusted from, if we go back to the occupancy reports, I should note, this shows you Central Standard Time because that's where it's all housed. So this is adjusted to show you Eastern Time on this slide.
Sorry, what's listed in Central?
Yeah, so the occupancy, the heat maps, if you will, these times are an hour behind. It's Central Standard Time on this chart. It was just manually updated on this stats data page to be Eastern Time.
So the peak time on that then is 1 to 3, not 12 to, or I'm sorry, 1
it's
to
the
4, not.
We put 4 to 7 here because it kind of, if you expand it, it's really 4 to 7 is when you see that peak.
I'm confused. So what is on, if you look at on the heat map here, what are those
So the times on the far left
times? Yeah.
are in Central Standard Time.
How many hours different is that?
1 hour.
So it's really 1
And so
to
I was
4.
But the times still don't line up though. Oh, I guess it does. No. Because on the heat map, it looks like the peak is, which would be 1 to 4. And then on the on the last one, you had 4 to 7 as peak.
This is over the duration of this 3 months. This number is the peak for the 3 months, not each individual month separately. And so on my computer, if we go into that system, we can expand the blocks of time and see each time. So this is telling you the peak times by hour, not considering the blocks that it's segmented into in the heat map. That's a mouthful, but I could show you in person if you'd like to see it.
So some questions on this. So for the citations, no payment, could you provide, again, I think a better way to look at this would be percentage. So percentage of all the total sessions, what percentage are citations no payment? Because then you can actually see if there's been an improvement in the percentage. This doesn't show you necessarily improvement because, I mean, $7.99 still looks high, but that is an improvement when you look at the percentage, right?
Yeah, I will tell you that it is an industry that 2.46% is a great number to have. But I don't know. I know Marcus mentioned that when he printed this, part of the cover page was cut off. Maybe it is there, but on here, the percentage is up there. And I'll send this to you after the meeting as well directly. So on the slide on the screen, the percent of total is up there on the right side.
Oh, I see.
So if that cover page cut off, maybe the printer.
Well,
cut off.
I mean, showing it per month though,
I can do that.
because again, then that'll indicate whether you're seeing an improvement or not. But why did you think there's the reduction in citations no payment, but also citations paid and overstay? I don't understand, because July was, you're saying, I guess, so that's where the percentage might provide a clear picture, because that kind of shows what, I guess, change in behavior, people potentially learning the system, not as many violations, because you're seeing just about the same usage in June and July, but there have been...
Yeah, I didn't follow part of that. I'm sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. So you're seeing the same usage in June and July, more or less, but the number of citations are going down, right? And that presumably that is because hopefully people are learning how to use the system, right?
Yes. So what I would really look at for that is the vehicles with repeated unpaid, which is about 1/6. So that's great. That means when we have this negative experience, they're appealing, they're reaching out, whatever it is, and then we're able to communicate what went wrong and how to not have that happen again. Yes. Now, there is a drop in July, and I can tell you that it was tied to Park Mobile. So the Park Mobile API, when people made Park Mobile payments, it stopped reporting to us in real time. And when I say not real time, it was sometimes 24 hours before it was received. And so we had to pause some enforcement so that we weren't giving tickets to people who shouldn't have had them. And so when that was done, we went back and they were issued after the fact, but we pulled out all those that had that happen. And others, if it was questionable, we did not send the citation.
Okay. So the data might be a little bit off.
That was, I want to say, nearly a 2-week process before that API was fixed, and then they updated their end to send it properly.
All right. All right.
The payments with overstay and a payment post session, I can tell you that was a very manual piece to pull that Zach, our director of BI, pulled. That is folks who made a payment, overstayed and left, and then more than an hour later made a payment for that difference in time. And those fall under that letter we talked about when we get those calls.
So you've changed so that you're not issuing the citation until they've been out of the garage 24 hours. If they haven't paid their overstay within 24 hours, then they're getting a ticket.
It's a pause, yes. And so what happens, and so these numbers are not indicative of this segment of our guests. Very few people show up here. What happens a lot more often is they call the office and say, I forgot to pay, or I stayed late, but I couldn't figure out how to pay, whatever it is. And those people, we just help right there. We void that citation. But that would not report in data as it exists. Yeah. Still not a huge number, but it's not 2.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
larger than that.
And the goal is to shift to the new citation model in October, by October.
Without going too far into it, we had a call earlier in the summer. I don't recall if it was June or July. It was discussed and just brought up. Marcus sent a formal letter to us as notice, and the plan on, and we talked, it was actually on the letter, was to discuss that in mid-September during our meeting. Great news is we had the August meeting last week. Medco and Amber, even unbeknownst to me, said, let's do it. And so we are working on that. I don't know what the timeline is. I can tell you that all of the mechanics there, except for the calc of the National Parking Association conference, is this week. So things are a bit slower this week, but it also means that the two important folks who need to talk to each other are also with each other at that conference. So I expect that conversation will happen this week, and I might be able to have a rough idea in the next week.
It seems like
In-
it would be fairly, I'm going to say simple, because you're reading their license plate when they enter, and you're reading it again when they leave, because you know if they've overstayed their payment, but if they haven't paid at all, you know they've overstayed 3.1 hours. If that's, yeah, right?
Yeah. So, first, as of that phone call where we got the marching orders, we are adjusted to the $25 and the processing fee. We are just not applying an unpaid session right now. The only way to do that right now would be to do a flat rate. For instance, I think I'm guesstimating, I haven't looked at this in a while. I want to say the average ticket is $11. So we could punch that in, but that doesn't consider the 1-hour parker who would pay less, or the 24-hour parker who would pay more. So right now it's just those two things. And we did that immediately upon getting that within less than an hour. It doesn't seem complicated, I agree. And to be honest, the field exists for unpaid parking. What will take work is creating the calc of that and then applying it to the rate schedule so that it can fill that field in. That is not in place right now, but working on it. not impossible. I couldn't code this. I might be able to coerce AI into making something for this, but getting that in place, tying the front end to the back end, and then having it tied to the mailer is mostly there. It's just that calc that needs to happen. And I've already confirmed with our product team that I was on the phone with our CTO Monday, Monday, yeah, that the data is pushed in that API that's creating the citations when they're identified. So it's all there. It's just the math needs to happen, and then it needs to relate it to the rate schedule.
Would it make sense if the fees to park per hour were the same per hour instead of increasing the long?
You know, if I was part of this conversation, and I think you're kind of asking maybe for input here, I like this. I think it's very friendly to a first time and second time visitor, or maybe the 10th time that had their first issue. I think it's great. I think that when you lose the teeth on compliance, which in this case is adjusting fees, you turn it into a more favorable math game for the 2%, or whatever percent of that 2% is actually non-compliant intentionally. So I love it. I would love it to see it almost more like a scofflaw type system, where the first, maybe second time, it's this mechanic, and then it goes to a more significant penalty to encourage the compliance. But that would have been the only recommendation I would have made towards this. I think it's great overall for guests.
Yeah.
Is that
And residents too, right? It happens for them too. And I think, you know, we have the repeat ones who just won't use the system, but there's a whole lot where once we hold their hand and get in touch with them, they use
And
it.
I see that as a positive for both parking companies. We talked about the data from Metropolis and the number of people that are repeat offenders of not paying. And if we're hitting them with 25 plus 2 hours, 25 plus 2 hours, how many times we're going to hit them with 25 plus 2 hours until it should kick in that maybe it goes up to 50 plus 2 hours in the process, you know, like that's,
There's two buckets. You're 100%
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
that might be more of a deterrent if you know that it was going up each. That's what happens if you park on the street, right? Very first time you get a parking ticket on the street, it's 40, and then it's 50, and then it's
150 or whatever.
100.
Yeah.
right?
A lot. And then a tow eventually, right? Which we don't do. But yeah, I think we could have more to it, but it's great as it is. The Marlins recently said, we always say that the parking experience is just like the lobby to a restaurant, right? The sticky floors or a sticky menu, and your meal's bad, even if the meal's good, right? And someone said to me, I've never heard them say this and I've never considered it, but the experience starts when you leave your house. It could be traffic. It can be all these things. If it's bad, you're less likely to go. So I think that this is favorable towards, let's not have Annapolis be a bad experience for one issue, but maybe the third time, let's start to enforce the policies a little bit
Is that
in a more meaningful way.
Is that something you're working on incorporating then?
It would be-
Yeah, it would be.
Weave to change? But I thought that Metropolis already does that. Because you're asking about basically the giving first time offenders a bit of a break.
I think the break would be this new, the July 1st
the new-
code change that we have. Yeah, R2125. I just think that I would have maybe had some more mechanics to it for the ones who continue, but that's just a recommendation.
I thought didn't Metropolis say they had some new grace period for first time offenders?
I think it's the same. It's the 24 hours. If you do something within 24 hours to make it right, or to tell us you
good
couldn't
intent.
figure it out,
Intent thing, yeah.
that would
yeah.
be-
I think they have it as well. They do the same thing, I believe. I don't want to speak for them, but I think so.
Well, I mean, it's election year, campaign season. This is still for a top issue we hear about, door knocking, and I think all of us have said that. There's still a perception, there's still fear, there's still deterrence. I've had people tell me they don't come downtown anymore because they were scared away by the $50 fines that they were getting hammered with. So what are we doing to correct the fear? It sounds like we have some fixes that are going to be in place, that are currently in place. What are we doing to change the public perception and get the residents back downtown? I don't know if that's a question for you and or the director, but
I think it's a great question. I think a lot will come soon. The numbers say it's a good experience. With scale, numbers get bigger, right? The percents of the numbers get larger. And so door knocking, where you're seeing the whole city, and so you're hearing it a lot. My offer stands for every business association and residential association and whatever else you could think of. I'm always willing to show up, participate, present, whatever it is. I've sat on many couches to go over this and talk about how to present it. I know Brendan has as well. Happy to show up anywhere and do that. At the same time, we are working with Visit Annapolis, Visit Anne Arundel County on some things as well. Hillary and I have a good relationship and have had some conversations about that as well. We'll do some business outreach for the promo codes for the Park Shop and Dine. I think it's always been underutilized and a good program too. So all of those things will start to happen. Slowly, we'll start to roll out PickPath, which is sort of a scan a QR code or get a link. It'll walk you through, okay, I parked here, here's the elevator, you swipe, press floor 1, here's the buttons, turn right here, now you're at City Hall, or now you're at Main Street, now go right to get to wherever it is. So we'll do something, we'll start to implement that, and then we'll also utilize that for eventually the residents. So it'll be a link. Here's how the system works, slide by slide on your phone, you can swipe. Here's now type here, now press here, now hit submit, whatever it is. So we're working on just making it understanding it more accessible, right?
well, could you clarify though, with the legislation we passed with the new citation model, are people still going to have to enter in their projected anticipated time they're going to be at the garage? Like they're still going to have to say, I'm going to be here for 3 hours. But if they overstay and to 4 or 5 hours, they're going to get that $20-some plus
Five.
for each hour they overstay.
Plus
So
each
it's
hour.
so they're not going to be getting that flat $50 fine. It'll be reduced. Okay. So I guess one thing I want to ask, like, is maybe you could work with the city public information office, but I can't help but to wonder if it'd be helpful to send out some kind of mailer to residents that says, hey, we hear you, we've made improvements to the parking garage downtown. I feel like it'd be a worthwhile investment. It'll help to drive up business.
We'll do that. I think another good story is the promo codes. It's the same code all year.
Yeah.
It just auto renews. We processed them in like a week instead of 5 this year. So it was a big improvement and much more accessible for them. It also saves in the profile now and shows them uses or how many uses are left for them each month too. And I will also say that Premium Go would be this sort of license plate mechanism. It exists. It's been in our product for 3 years. Don't hold me to that. A while. And it's still something that's actively worked on. The problem is the effective read rate of cameras. A great camera system that might capture 95% of plates. There's two ends to that, and so if both are really good installs, which are 95%, you're actually capturing 91% of them effectively. And that's why we don't have that rolled out right now.
Okay.
But what we do have is if you ever go to Hillman and scan the QR code, you'll see a start-stop session. That's always been there at the top. And so you can use that to start and stop a session that's going to represent time you're there. Yes, that is not what the agreements say how it should work, but through the city at some requests 2 years ago, that was turned on and has always been an option for folks as well. It's on the app. So it's yellow text at the top. When you scan, you can start a start-stop session.
Yeah, Alderman, what we want to do, as I mentioned earlier, with our community outreach. So some of your ward meetings, like we presented for transit, the Eastport Civic Association, and with Alderwoman O'Neill, a lot of that Ward 2 over at the stadium. But we'd like to go to other wards when you have those community meetings. As we come into the holiday season, each year it seems like we're getting a little bit better with our presentations, with our information and how things work. With our PIO right now, we are working on an updated, how do I get there from here? What's the best place to park? We just started that process yesterday with our PIO and hope to have that finished by next week. So the month of October, we'll be ready for the rest of the year because, a lot of things change with parking the day after Thanksgiving all the way through New Year's. And each year, just bringing more and more guests downtown for, Midnight Madness and all the other fun things that are going on with Maryland Avenue and all. But as Mr. Parola said, if we, can get to these civic associations and just discuss it a little more, it's not a one and done. It's a continuum, and we do need to. Did he say this? Or what was it said? How do I do it? How do we make it easier for that to be remembered? And some of our best ambassadors would be those volunteers from the visitor center as they opened up their trailer downtown, being able to provide information on the public transportation that will be running later on, and specifically parking. We have the assets, the things we want to do with bike trails and all, and we still have space. We're not really compromising parking for bikes. But how do we get that information out? Because there's a lot of bad information out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I'm going to suggest going to maybe with representatives from both companies or somebody from your staff, but going to places like Bay Woods and walking the residents through any kind of
How
for
do you
sure.
do this,
and how do you sign up do this in the app
for Go Time and the whole thing?
Yeah, that too.
They'll both be with us with transportation on the 23rd at the Visitors Center. They've opened. They really are welcoming it. We'll have a pre-meeting to find out what their staff really wants to know more about. But it definitely is parking. It is transportation. It is updates on City Dock. So with our PIO maybe, but most likely Hillary and Premium and Metropolis and transportation. We got the whole gamut. We'll give them as much time as they want. In the past couple of years, we've been going twice, spring and fall. So we were there this spring, but we're trying to up our game a little bit to give a bit more information and really ask what do they want versus what we think they need.
If I may, I just want to point out, we all know Henry and what he's done with Metropolis and SP Plus over the years. It's no secret that Andrew's here with me today, which I'm grateful for. So just to point that, we're good at parking. I think you have two vendors who have very much disrupted and rethought how parking can work versus traditional models, which is great. They're here to help us be better at the community part because it's not what we do every day when we wake up. I'm great with owners and managers of buildings and portfolios, but I'm not a PR expert. And so that's why they're on board. And then they were also brought on to sort of give people an indirect route to feedback, whether it be from the mayor's office and the council or the businesses and residents, et cetera. So we're aware and probably we're a bit naive at one point that we're good at PR, but there's a lot of great stories we're not telling. And more importantly, the improvements. You probably have heard one today, I'm guessing, that you weren't fully brought in on. And so that's why we've retained them.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be good to summarize. But also, once you actually make the shift to the new citation model, charging model, then I think we should get a press release out. I mean, obviously, we're in the middle of an election season, but it'd be good to correct a lot of the the record that's out there. There's a lot of bad information. I think people want to see improvement. So faster you can get something done, the better off I think we'll be to. Because again, the more, obviously there's the political impact, but the more people are out there trashing the parking systems, and regardless of operator, that's not good for the city. It's not good for your business. So I don't know if you can coordinate with the city manager's office and public information office to get some of that information out there, some of the improvements.
Yeah.
One of the last number requests, do you have the total usage of the promo codes over time?
That was on one of the slides. And so I'll update them with a % of total
Okay.
sessions.
Yeah. Well, so I don't see that listed on.
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. I'll send you this deck. That's right. That was added after Marcus
Oh,
received
okay.
this.
Oh.
I wrote it.
Oh, you wrote that one down. Okay.
I'll send
Sorry,
this
forgot that.
evening. I'll make it look a bit better, add some of these % we talked about, and then I'll send it to the calendar invite.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anything else, Dr. Moore?
No, I think that's all we have unless there's other questions that you might have emailed in or anything.
Not so far.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Appreciate you guys. That concludes our agenda. You have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.